Hi, this is Chloe Sears, and this is my alternative assignment for Module 3, in which we read the essay Early Philosophy to Aristotle, as well as watched the supplemental videos. So at the beginning of the essay, we were presented with the question, why does philosophy matter, and how can we live what we believe? And at the beginning, I was a little bit... I couldn't really think about why philosophy was super important to society, and at least now, is that everybody probably has a sense of consciousness and, fully kind of has this understanding that it's important to be in tune with yourself. But the more that I was able to look into the past with the videos as well as with the essay, I was able to come to the conclusion that emotional introspective ideas are just as important as scientific and technological ideas, because it allows individuals to throw out the notions of society and to find the most authentic version of themselves and discover and reunite with their essence. And essence being the goal of a philosopher, to remember their and reunite with their essence. So this is kind of what I just said, is this idea that it's just as important to be able to reunite with who you are individually and to take every single aspect of society away from you in order to discover what makes you happy and discover the importance in the things in your life, and to understand yourself is just as important as these big technological ideas that are coming in society. And we're able to see that by going back and looking into the past. So I thought that was really interesting, because I was able to come to a little bit of a conclusion that that's why philosophy is important, although it's probably not the only idea. I just thought that that was the way that I interpreted it. So we spent a lot of time talking about Socrates and his ideas about how he wanted to see if people understood what they said they understood. Now that, for me, if I think about somebody asking me the question of like, oh, do you fully understand what you say you understand? I know that would be a no from me, and that I definitely need to do more thinking into myself to take away the boundaries from society, and to fully dive in to see the different things that make up myself and my essence, and allow me to fully understand the things that I say that I understand. Like, I mean, I'll talk about things like I know them, but I definitely do not. And so I think that that's a really interesting idea, that somebody so long ago was asking those questions. And it helped me to fully understand, which is something I didn't understand in the beginning, as to why a society would choose to murder such a profoundly intelligent individual. And, seeing this idea that he's asking people to throw away all of their barriers and to be the most authentic version of themselves, and to have this idea of showing the real version of themselves and confronting these ideas. I can now further understand why he was seen as corrupting individuals, because he was asking something that is so advanced for that time, this idea of fully understanding your unconscious being and the essence of everything that you do, and to see if you understand what you say you understand. So I thought that that was really interesting. I also thought it was interesting that he definitely saw power in the act of questioning, which definitely shows that his ideas were a lot of the foundation for philosophy. So I thought that was interesting, because a lot of what we're studying now is based on this idea of asking these broad questions. And so it gets you beyond the world of assumptions and beliefs, and allows you to have a more internal perception of yourself, and this illusion where the knowledge drops away and you're looking more at yourself and seeing what you do not know, which will give rise to your virtue, and this idea that your virtue will allow you to stop pretending and finally actually understand what you say that you're understanding. Going back to that idea of essence, this idea that was the goal for philosophers, there was a passage within the essay that brought on an emotional response for me, response. It was this idea that if we can get past the specific beauty, then we can go past appearances and understand the essence of things. And Professor Provost related this to this idea of the power of love. And I thought that that was a really interesting way to think about it, because I never really thought about philosophy being applied to love, and this idea that in order to truly be in love with somebody, you have to be in love with their essence rather than their physical appearance, which is so much of society today, is that it's based on how you look rather than how you interact with somebody, and if your morals align, and if you feel that you could each make each other happy. And I think that that's really important. And the reason why I think I had a positive emotional response related to this is because it's, it's going back to that idea that it's more about what's inside, this idea of being aware of your conscience and seeing the things that you need within a relationship and being able to apply it to, this idea of love with another individual. I think that that's really interesting, and how it can apply to helping you discover your essence and having a sense of wisdom in choosing to be in a relationship with a person. So I thought that was really interesting. Let's see. Another thing that I had trouble understanding, confusing at the beginning, was Plato's idea of the cave. I actually had to go back and reread that passage and watch the video again and again to fully understand the idea. So I was able to come to the conclusion that it was this idea that somebody was able to see the true nature of being, seeing it by the true forms rather than the phantoms of the shadows. And as they went back and tried to explain this idea of this profound thing that they saw to individuals, those people thought that they were crazy and they wanted to kill him. And so it was this, I was finally able to I was able to understand that it was this, it was showing a parallel to philosophy, and the idea that as someone was becoming more introspective and discovering their unconscious, the unconscious part of their being, as well as their consciousness and their sense of self and their essence, and we're trying to explain it to other people, and we're trying to get them to ask these big questions like Socrates had done. They were, people were starting to see that, thought that they were crazy, because it's, it's this idea of what we saw is right rather than you telling us something that you saw and something that you understand and interpreted. So I was able to better understand it, because at first I was kind of like, why are they talking about this cave? But it was more to show the parallel between philosophy and this idea of somebody coming to a profound thought and a profound idea and trying to show it to other people in society and them not accepting that idea. So I thought that was really interesting. Something that was an awakening idea for me, and this was in one of the videos, Epicurus, and I thought it was really, really cool to have this, talk about less of the material beings, about what makes people happy, because I didn't really know that what makes people happy was a question that we would discover and we would talk about within philosophy. And I thought that it was also surprising that the three things that they said was that you need to see your friends regularly, and that you need to stop working for others, and that you need to find calm in your minds. And that came to this conclusion that people really aren't very good at making themselves happy, because it's a lot more focused on the idea of fame and the idea of the material being and the idea of money and stuff like that. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think it relates back to this idea, the essence of love relates to this idea of what makes people happy, is that it's not the material that you see within the person, it's the material that you see within their essence and stuff like that. But I also related this, I thought that was really interesting, because right now with COVID going on, I definitely, like in myself as well as other individuals, there's this, this depression going on in a lot of people. And I definitely relate that into seeing that people aren't able to see their friends regularly. And right now they're probably being forced to basically be in a situation that they can't control, and they don't have the ability to see their friends regularly and find a calm within their mind, because there's so many crazy things going on right now. So I thought that was interesting, because I was able to apply this idea of Epicurus to what's going on right now in society. But anyways, I thought that the ideas of Socrates as well as Aristotle, his ideas being, I didn't really talk about him yet, his ideas of substance is primary. Okay, it's the idea of substance being primary, and then the qualities being like the separate idea, which was opposite of Plato. I thought that was interesting, because it's like that there's no evidence that these separate these ideas were the derivative of it. Okay, so the ideas were the derivative of his substance. This idea that the substance, like the thing, the physical thing that is there, is the thing, and then the ideas were there was no evidence that they actually existed. So I thought that was really interesting, because it's like, well, the chair is here, but the color and the size are completely, variable and changes. Whereas, which was very different from Plato, which is he thought that the ideas were the most real and that the specific things were the derivative. And I think that goes back to that idea of the material, the physical thing, is that the essence, he's trying to say that the essence is more important versus the material thing being the most, versus Aristotle saying that how can we trust what we don't know? How he asked all these questions of how can we know something we don't know? And so I think that that's really interesting. But anyways, thanks for listening.